Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 968 for the 19th of October. I realized that I said this yesterday too. Apparently it was the wrong date. Yesterday's was 18th of October, 1968. 1968. 968. So anyway, a lot of crazy things has happened. The list of frontline changes is a lot, but this is not the frontline changes report. But I will be talking about all the changes during the SITREP, so you will see the changes. And so we're going to go into the Kursk front first, the Kursk front. At the Kursk front, some major updates. For those that are uninitiated, we have the Kurakhove sector, the western flank, the northern flank, and the east and southern flank. So this is the Kurakhove sector, western flank, northern flank, and south and eastern flank. So we're going to go to the Kurakhove sector first. So based on the Ukrainian mapping from Ukrainian sources, the Russian forces have retaken quite a number of grounds. They did not actually report this at all. It was done hushly, and I was just like, no. I was thinking, what is the update from the Ukrainian side? Do they change the latest mapping? And I realized that they actually changed it like quietly. They didn't talk about it in their reports on their Telegram. So Russian forces have secured Vovino again and Krasno-Otobersky. They have the Russians also have retaken Vasiloi and Pokrovsk, and the Russians still have not retaken Novi Put, but the Russians have retaken Medvedze. So this is based on Ukrainian mapping, and this acknowledged or disclaimed the region that was already claimed by the Russian side to be captured by the Russian side. So the fighting is still primarily over at Novi Put. The Russians are still putting pressure as the Ukrainians are still holding the grounds around here. So we will just continue to monitor the situation around this area here, as the battle here is like looking like it's going to end very, very soon. I don't know. Eventually the Ukrainians will have to give up this area. Then the next question will be, would the Russian go to incur into the Sumy region? So we move on to the western flank. At the western flank, the Russian Defense Ministry made some interesting reports. Yesterday they mentioned Svetiklove. So today they actually mentioned Nikolsky. So according to the Russian Defense Ministry, they are fighting in the region of Krylenkoe, Nikolsky, and as well as Zeleny Klint. So this is and the Ukrainian forces are counter-attacking over at Leonidovo. So this is interesting. The lack of fighting being reported at the Lyubimovka Zeleny region in the Russian Defense Ministry report may suggest that the Ukrainians have given up the fight at Lyubimovka. There's a high chance that the Ukrainians have withdrawn or have been pushed out entirely from this potential encirclement. The encirclement is not mentioned by the Russian Defense Ministry. It's purely by the pro-Russian sources, and which is why you can see the mapping as such. Ukrainian mapping does not acknowledge any form of encirclement around this area here, but the Russians are indeed pushing out, and we already have footages showing that the Russians have previously pushed for Viktorovka. So there's a chance that this withdrawal is there. No, but we shall see. As the Russians did not mention fighting at Lyubimovka or Zeleny, they only mentioned Zeleny Klint. So yeah, good chance the Russians have closed up this salient. So this is the western flank at the Kursk front. We move to the northern flank. At the northern flank, we have some updates. So Russian Defense Ministry reported that they have attacked Ukrainian forces at Ogovka. So which does prove that the Ukrainians do indeed have some positions around there. Over on the other side, the Ukrainian mapping have mapped that they have no control over Sheptokovka. So this is a correction from the Ukrainian mapping, and this corroborates what I already understood to be should be the case, that Sheptokovka is under Russian control. Ukrainian mapping also showed that Kiturovka is also under Russian control. So we just continue to monitor to see how the situation in the Ukrainian mapping. All of this is gray zone, so it's not particularly clear how the real front line is like. So let's see how this goes. Over on the eastern and southern part. Okay, so this is also part of the northern part. Russian forces are okay, let's do this as an eastern front, eastern flank then. So at the eastern flank, this is Sudzha, the main city in the Kursk offensive. The Russian forces are attacking over at Cherkasskoye Parashnoye towards Komarkov, as well as Cherkasskaya Konopelka. So this is the main push the Russians are currently doing, but this is interesting. This is something new. The Russians are making a push over in the north of Sudzha. That's something new. So we probably might see more coming from this direction as the Russians ramping up the pressure to push the Ukrainians out of the Kursk region. And in this area here, as mentioned in yesterday's situation report, Russian forces have captured Ruskaya Konopelka. So it looks like the next target is Komarkov, which is logical, the next settlement. And the Russians are pushing Cherkasskaya Konopelka. So this is the current situation right here. So we will continue to monitor. The Russians are indeed pushing from all directions in the Kursk front right now. So this is getting really desperate for the Ukrainians. Over in the southern flank, there is only fighting reported at Bakhmut. There's no more updates regarding the details around this area. So we just continue to wait. So that's all from the Kursk front. We move on to the Kharkiv front. At the Kharkiv front, nothing very significant, in my opinion, is happening. There is the usual. Russian forces are fighting at Lipsy. Ukrainian Defense Ministry mentioned a Russian attack at Zaporizhzhia, and both mentioned Pishchane. So, but otherwise, there's not. It's not a real offensive happening around here. So this is just skirmishes. So that's all from the Kharkiv front, and we move into the Kupyansk front. So this is the Kupyansk front. This is the Pishchane front. And these two fronts combined has some very significant developments around here. And we're going to go into the Kupyansk front first. At the Kupyansk front, Russian forces have made huge developments around the Sinkivka region. And my guess about the Russian advance in the west of Sinkivka towards Holubivka is indeed true. We have now mapping from the Ukrainian side acknowledging the advance of the Russians, and the Russians are now pushing Holubivka, Kucherivka, and Petropavlivka. On the eastern part, the Russian Defense Ministry. So let me see. This is Russian claims. This is not this is Russian claims. This is only this part. West of Sinkivka is by the Ukrainians. I will zoom in. Don't worry. I will zoom in. Don't need to squint your eyes. I know. It's okay, don't worry. Over at the eastern flank, the Russians are pushing across the entire front line from Ivanivka to Stepova Novoselivka, Kaislivka, and Kotelivka. So this is just pressure. I believe this is diversion to force the Ukrainians to react to this while the main push is coming down on Kupyansk. And the Ukrainians, if they decided to focus on this on protecting Kupyansk, then the Russians will push through from the east. So no, this is the hit left, or fin left, hit right, that kind of thing. So as we zoom in, this area here west of Sinkivka is actually mapped by Ukrainian mapping. This is a confirmed capture, which means that the Russians indeed have advanced in the forest in Sinkivka as I expected, and which is why we have fighting reported in the Holubivka region as per reported by the Ukrainian side. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry mentioned Holubivka many times. And based on Russian mapping, they expanded a bit more south of this position. They claim that the Russians have expanded their control of this salient, this push through in the south of Sinkivka, as the Russians expanded control along this area. The most significant one is this area, because this directly goes into Kupyansk. This area is just open ground, so no, this is just arbitrary. So that's all for this area in the Kupyansk front. And so based on this mapping, you can see why there is fighting reported at Kucherivka all these days and Petropavlivka. And if the Russians continue to push through the forest, they will reach directly into the eastern half of Kupyansk. And so I will definitely be keeping a lookout for this thing, because it will just change the way how we map it. Because at this moment, we are always saying this is shelling, but it could be a case where the fighting is now starting. So, but tentatively, not yet, based on our mapping, our understanding, I don't think that's the case. Over at the Pishchane front, the Russian forces are concentrating on Kolesnikivka as well as Kurakhove. Fighting is also reported at Lozova. Particularly over at Kurakhove, as mentioned yesterday, the Ukrainians view this as a very desperate situation. They even sent in their special forces, which is their elite, the best of their best. But it didn't seem to stop the Russians at all. In fact, the based on the Russian information, they actually wrote a lot about this. Like you can see, this is a very very long thing. So they did mention about the special forces. So the okay. So they say that the Ukrainians tried to create a, information space that this is not a crisis, showing off the work of the GUR or the special forces from the from the defense intelligence on the Ukrainian side. Then saying that it's a successful cleansing. However, this based on the Russians, they say that the footage is filmed no later than October 14. Now this is more than a week ago, which means that the information or the videos that was shown may be dated from the Ukrainian side. And the reality is that the Russians has been geolocated in new positions, and this time now they're just off the bridge, just off. This is a super close. They are basically just less than 400 meters away from the road that's leading to the bridge, and less than 1 kilometers away from the bridge itself. So the Russian forces suddenly, as mentioned yesterday in the situation report, I did say that let's see how far the Russians can push, and indeed the Russians push really far. And based on the collective information, this is the largest, this is the maximum extent of the possible Russian expansion of the control of Kurakhove, which means that Kurakhove is going to fall like very very quickly, because this bridge is the only way the Ukrainians can send in reinforcement at this moment. Anything coming from the south is going to be pretty difficult, because Featherweight front is very big. There is a lot of areas that the Ukrainians need to focus their troops on, and I don't think they're going to come in here in time. So the Russians are going to capture the bridge, and this is going to be a massive problem, as the Ukrainian logistic is now already having to go one big round between Kupyansk and the Featherweight front. So massive update regarding this area here. And we move from further south. So for those that do not know what is Featherweight front, this is Kupyansk, this is a Pishchane front, this is Featherweight, and this is the Featherweight front. So at the Featherweight front, there is fighting reported more in the southern region. Fighting is reported at Kharkiv, Novo-Mikhailivka, and Novo-Lvivka. So that's all we have in this area. This is not the main focus of the Russians, and you can see that the Ukrainians will have to do one big detour in terms of crossing. Maybe there is a faster path between the two, but yeah, this crossing is gone. So that's the main problem right now, the strategic situation. Over at the Crimea front, there is fighting reported at Terny and Dibrova. That's all, nothing much. Then at the Sivers front, we have fighting reported at Serbianka, Kurakhove, as well as Vienivka. There is no more developments around here. It looks like the Russian push. They did try a massive push towards Sivers, has entirely failed. The claim of the capture of Verkhovno looks like it's fake. And so whoever is commanding this area is going to get a huge reprimanding, maybe even court-martial in the future. Shelling is reported at Nikiforivka. Just take it with a pinch of salt, which is very out of place. Over in the Bakhmut front, there is no more news regarding the situation at Chasiv yet, because there is all this intel drop yesterday. So yeah, there's no more intel drop for today. So let's gonna wait for a bit more, a few more days. We'll probably see more information. In the southern flank of the Bakhmut front, we have fighting reported at Stupovsky, Pishchane, Andrievka, as well as towards Alexandro-Shitine. The Alexandro-Shitine might actually come in from the south as well, not necessarily from the east, because the information from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, they say that this is in the direction of Torex. which means that they are talking about the Russians attacking upwards. And this is very particularly interesting to me, because the Ukrainian Defense Ministry first mentioned Druzhba, fighting at Druzhba. Then after that, they are the first to talk about Dashny. After that, they start to talk about Dilievka. As you can see, the latest was just the previous day's report. Now they are talking about Alexandro Shutine. I wonder if there is actually a Russian advance around this area that is not mentioned in any of the mapping or information, because the Ukrainian Defense Ministry keep pushing up this area here, despite that even the Russian mapping or Russian intel don't really have this. So this is particularly curious, I would say. That's all for that. In terms of the New York front, generally there is fighting reported at Torex, Skibinivka, as well as Sukabalka. Otherwise, that's all we know. We move on over in the Pokrov front. So this is Pokrov. So this is the Pokrov front, and this is the northern flank, the Pokrov sector, Selidove sector, and then we have the Sukhiriny sector or the Hirnyk region. So over at the northern flank, the Russian forces fighting reported at Vozdvizhenka as well as Mario-Lyubivka. As mentioned previously, the Russian forces captured the entrenchment at Vozdvizhenka, and this is actually acknowledged by the Ukrainian mapping in the latest Ukrainian report. Over and on the Pokrov sector, Russian forces are pushing Promin as well as towards Minokhrad. Shelling is reported at Pokrov, so it looks like the main focus is currently Minokhrad. So let's see how this continue to unfold in this area here. And we move further south. Over at the Selidove region, Russian forces are fighting in Selidove. Ukrainian forces counter-attack. This is old information. This is old information. I forgot to change this. Yeah, because I can identify the report. So again, Russians are attacking Selidove. The exact angle of attack we're not sure. Then there is fighting reported towards Novodimitrivka, which is more related to the front line below. So over in the Hirnyk region, based on the latest geolocations, as mentioned in yesterday's report, the Russian forces have closed the Nevelsky salient. The Nevelsky salient is generally is all gone, and the Russian forces have fully captured all this area here. In the latest report or latest mapping from Ukrainian side, this actually confirmed the Russians even expanded even further, taking one more tree line around here. Versus the SITREP that we mentioned yesterday. So fighting is now currently being reported at Zoriane. However, the Russian Defense Ministry mentioned that they have captured Zoriane. So if that's the case, then Russian forces may have the front line looking like this, including Zeleny Druhi. But Zeleny Druhi is still mentioned by the Ukrainian side as the site of fighting. So that is not confirmed yet. So fighting is reported in this area. Russian forces expanded control in the north of Hirnyk, pushing south towards Hirnyk as well as Izmailivka. They have also expanded control towards Novoselidivka. So this pressure on the Hirnyk region is getting more intense as we speak. And so let's see how this continue to develop. This is becoming a salient, by the way. This is becoming a salient. So yeah, and the salient is getting smaller and smaller. So we move further south. Over at the Kurakhove sector, the Russian forces have new geolocations confirming more capture of Maximilianivka, continuingly corroborating the claim of capture of Maximilianivka. And Russians also expanded southward from Maximilianivka towards Dane. The fighting is reported at Georgievka as well as towards Kurakhove. So even in this sector, the Russians are pushing pretty hard. And this is not just one. We already talk about like in the Kursk region, Kupyansk. We talked about Chasivia yesterday. And then we have the Pokrov. And then now we have the Hirnyk region and then this Kurakhove sector. So there's a lot of concentrated offensive all over the places that the Russians are pushing. So I wonder where the Ukrainians have to focus. I don't think they can focus on all of them. So over at the rest of the Donetsk front, there is fighting reported at Konstantinivka, Antonivka, Katerinivka, towards Bohov-Yevlenka, Novo-Ukrainka, and towards Shataske. So, and even across this front line, it looks pretty expensive. We shall see how this develop. If there is something more concentrated, I will let you know. But tentatively, it doesn't look that concentrated. It looks like it's just harassment across the entire front line, because the main push is further up north. There is geolocation of Russian forces at Zoreta Neva, confirming that the Russians have more control of Zoreta Neva than the Ukrainians led to. But more likely than not, Zoreta Neva is under full Russian control. In the vertical Novosibirsk sector, we have nothing. We move into the Zaporizhzhia front. This is Zaporizhzhia, and this is the Zaporizhzhia front. And it's broke up into three sectors: Kursk sector, Kharkiv sector, and the Kuyapole sector. Over at this at the Kharkiv and the Kursk sector, Russian forces are attacking at Malatomashka as well as Kurakhove. But that's all. There's nothing else. So this is a pretty quiet front line. Shelling is reported over Ilinka, across the Dnieper River, so across the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, reported by the Russian Defense Ministry. And the river, for reminder, looks like this right now because the dam was destroyed over at Novokakhovka. There is shelling also reported at Kharylivka, which is a continuation of the shelling reported in this area here. Previously, there is shelling reported at Zoreta Balka, also Korivka, and the Krechenivka. So now over at Hevrivka, and which is why I keep sensing that there's a possibility that there is some Ukrainian build up around this area, which they may want to try to do something new to try to shake up the situation because things are just not going well for them. And then over in the Kherson region, there's only shelling reported at Pridniprovsk as well as on this island called the Korabel Island, so which is south of Kherson. Otherwise, there is nothing else in the Kherson front, and that's about it. So this is the summary for the day of 19th of October for the day of 968. Rumors about North Korean troops inside Ukraine. I think maybe at most it's observers. I don't think they are active frontline troops, and also that there is just enough troops for the Russians, unless the North Koreans actually ask for opportunities to observe the war. I don't think this is to fight the war, but actually to observe, to learn the latest warfare tactics, and that's probably it. Otherwise, there is a few footages coming out of North Koreans in Russia, but most likely it's in the Far East, probably doing some other projects that is probably classified that we do not know of. I don't think they are going to be fighting in Ukraine. That's what I think. But anyway, thank you for watching. Press the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next update.